There are things so tiny that you cannot see them with the naked eye. But the consequences they bring, the whole world must witness. Just 2 milligrams, smaller than a grain of salt. Enough to completely extinguish a life. No gunshot, no scream, just one breath, gradually weakening, then fading away into silence. This is not a homicide. Not a contagious virus. Not war or terrorism. This is fentanyl, a synthetic drug, invented with a noble purpose, to ease unbearable pain. But today, it is no longer medicine. It is a slow death sentence, disguised as the most pleasurable feeling a human being can ever know. The first time I used fentanyl, I didn't think it was bad. It made me feel light, happy, fearless. I thought I had found heaven. A survivor recalls. But that heaven lasts only minutes. Then comes the hell with no escape. Where every moment of clarity is torture. Where death almost feels like a relief. In the United States, every 5 minutes, someone dies from fentanyl. A teenager, a mother, an artist, an office worker, a homeless person. Fentanyl doesn't choose victims. It doesn't discriminate by class, age, gender, or belief. Anyone can be a victim, in just one moment. Think you're not involved? That you would never touch drugs? But are you sure the sleeping pills you just bought online aren't laced with fentanyl? Can you guarantee the painkillers your close friend is taking aren't counterfeit? Do you know fentanyl has been mixed into marijuana, ecstasy, cocaine, and is floating around parties, dorms, bars? You don't have to be a drug addict to become a victim. Behind this deadly storm are transnational criminal networks, a lax prescription system, a terrifying silence from the media, and a generation losing hope, losing their future in society's indifference. But this is not just a story about death. It's a story about life. About people who have hit rock bottom but chose to keep going. About families turning grief into action. About doctors, police, volunteers, fighting day and night to save every single life. This documentary is not here to scare you, but to inform you, to help you understand, and to urge you to act. Because when you finish this part, somewhere in your city, another victim may have just fallen to fentanyl. And if we do nothing, that list will keep growing. Until the name you know, the name you love, appears on it. Fentanyl feels like heaven, but the price you pay is your very life. Studio Microphone Chapter 1. What is fentanyl? From the lab to the darkness. Sometimes, the greatest inventions lead to the most horrifying consequences. Fentanyl is a clear example of that. In 1960, in a medical laboratory in Belgium, Dr. Paul Janssen, one of the most brilliant medicinal chemists of the 20th century, synthesized a compound capable of relieving pain faster, stronger, and more effectively than any drug before it. He named it fentanyl. The original purpose was truly noble, to help terminal cancer patients, or those undergoing complex surgeries unbearable without pain relief. Fentanyl was the final dose for pain that surpasses all human tolerance. In the medical world, fentanyl is a hero. It helps thousands of patients pass away gently and peacefully. It contributes to the success of many surgeries. But like all powerful things, that power needs to be controlled. And once it goes beyond control, it turns into a monster. With only a tiny amount, just 2 milligrams, fentanyl can kill a healthy adult. It is 50 times stronger than heroin, 100 times stronger than morphine. It attacks the central nervous system, slows breathing, lowers the heartbeat, and if not treated immediately, the user dies from internal suffocation, a quiet but utterly merciless death. So what happened? How did a drug strictly controlled in hospitals become the cause of a global crisis? The answer lies in 2 words: profit. International drug cartels, especially in Mexico and China, realized one thing. Fentanyl is easy to produce, easy to transport, cheap, and highly profitable. Because it is so powerful, only a small amount is needed to cut into other drugs like cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, making users feel a stronger high at a lower cost. No need to grow plants. No need to transport tons of goods. Gangs only need a few mini labs, a few chemical precursors, some white powder, and they have created something deadlier than any gun ever made. Fentanyl is disguised in millions of counterfeit pills, looking like legitimate painkillers. Sold on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, delivered into the hands of underage teenagers, and shipped directly to homes like an Amazon package. Over the past decade, fentanyl deaths have skyrocketed. In the US, in 2015, on average 30 people died daily from synthetic opioids. By 2023, that number has exceeded 150 deaths per day. Fentanyl is no longer just a drug. It is a silent pandemic. You might wonder, why do people still use it knowing it can kill them? The answer is not simple. Because fentanyl is not just a substance, it is a feeling. a feeling like all anxiety melts away, as if you are wrapped in the softest sleep, completely separated from pain and reality. It makes the brain release a flood of dopamine, the happiness hormone, at levels far beyond any natural experience. And it is precisely because of that feeling, the user's brain immediately remembers, craves, and demands to repeat it, even knowing the next time might be the last. Because once you have tasted that heavenly feeling, ordinary life becomes meaningless. Fentanyl doesn't just kill the user. It kills families. It shatters communities. It steals not only lives but futures, hope, and trust, everything. But this is just the beginning. Behind every dose of fentanyl is an untold tragic story. Fathers and mothers screaming in despair. Children orphaned by a pill smaller than a fingertip. We can no longer call fentanyl a drug. We must call it what it really is, the 21st century's weapon of mass destruction. Studio Microphone Chapter 2, The Feeling of Heaven and the Door to Hell. There is a strange paradox. What kills us is also what makes us feel most alive. That is fentanyl. A dose of fentanyl enters the body like a gentle kiss of death. No pain, no screams, only an absurdly soothing relief, as if all the pressure, fear, and sorrow in your life suddenly vanish within seconds. Users describe the feeling with all sorts of beautiful phrases. Like floating among the clouds. Like being embraced by the universe. Like returning to the womb, where there is no pain, no responsibility. This is not drunkenness, not the kind of stimulation from cocaine or ecstasy. Fentanyl is numbness. It's escape, a brief death, before the real death comes. Biologically, when fentanyl enters the bloodstream, it quickly crosses the blood-brain barrier and attaches to opioid receptors in the brain, the places controlling pain and pleasure. Instantly, the brain releases an enormous amount of dopamine, the happiness hormone, hundreds of times more than natural activities like eating, sex, or love. What is the result? For the first time, you feel enough peace, enough satisfaction, enough to stop running, but only for a moment. That feeling fades away, and what comes after? A deep, empty void, where normal life no longer satisfies. Users don't say, "I want to die from fentanyl." They say, "I just want to feel like the first time." And they use again, the second time, the third, the 10th. But here's the problem, you never get back that first feeling. The brain remembers the first dose as the happiness standard. But because tolerance builds fast, the next dose needs to be stronger. The body adapts, but the mind still craves the old feeling. And then, you begin to fall into hell. No more high feelings. Only the fear of not having the drug. You start trembling, sweating, nauseous, aching muscles, seizures. The mind panics. There is only one thing to ease the pain, using more. This is no longer recreation. This is survival. Don't use, you suffer. Use, you might die. And you choose to die, rather than endure withdrawal. Some have described quitting fentanyl as being buried alive. Lying there, still conscious, still aware, but feeling tortured cell by cell. Some say, it's like pulling your spinal cord out by hand. Like someone peeling your skin layer by layer, inside out. And when people can't stand it anymore, they use again. The loop never ends, until their body can no longer bear it. The biggest problem is, fentanyl kills users before they even know they're addicted. You don't need continuous use to be addicted. Just one time, one dose, one pill containing fentanyl, can kill you on the first try. Hundreds of teenagers have died from a fake pill, which they thought was anxiety medicine. Sleeping pills, or Adderall, no warning signs, no chance to turn back. It's not like slowly falling into ruin with heroin. With fentanyl, you play a deadly game of chance, and you can lose the first time. While traditional drugs give you time to realize the problem, to seek help, fentanyl gives you no time. It strikes the brain, heart, and breath, in less than 60 seconds. And worse, fentanyl users don't always know they are using it. It's mixed in, disguised, hidden. It's the invisible killer at a spontaneous party. In a pill bought online. In what seems like harmless marijuana smoke. This is not a story about lost addicts. It's the story of ordinary people just trying to soothe their pain. But accidentally opening the door to hell. Studio Microphone Chapter 3. Lost Souls, the Faces of the Epidemic. In the news, all you see are numbers. Hundreds of thousands of deaths each year because of fentanyl. But behind every number, there is a face. A name, a family, a heart that has stopped beating. Emily, 16 years old, an outstanding student. One evening, she asked her mother to go to bed early because she had a math test the next day. The next morning, her mother found Emily lying motionless in bed, lips bluish, phone still in hand. She had died in her sleep, after taking a sleep aid pill bought on Snapchat, which contained fentanyl. Tyler, 21 years old, a senior electrical engineering student. He dreamed of working for NASA. One night at a party, Tyler tried a strange cigarette, thinking it was just marijuana. 30 minutes later, he collapsed. Fentanyl had been laced into the cigarette. A deadly trap Tyler never suspected. Maria, a 34-year-old single mother. She worked 2 jobs to support her young child. After a work accident caused back injury, doctors prescribed opioid painkillers. When her prescription ended, the pain remained. She turned to the black market to buy similar pills, and unknowingly tried fentanyl for the first time. Within months, Maria lost her home, lost custody of her child, and then her life. Stories like these are no longer isolated cases. They have become a silent tsunami, sweeping away an entire generation. The scariest part is, no one thinks it will happen to them. No one thinks that a good child, a loving father, or a smart sister will become part of this epidemic. No one imagines that a tiny pill, no bigger than a grain of rice, could be the end of a whole life. It's not what you think of addiction. It's not needles, dark alleys, or homelessness. It's your child, your grandchild, your friend, right inside your own home. A mother who lost her daughter to fentanyl. We often think of epidemics as caused by germs or viruses. But fentanyl is an invisible epidemic. It makes no sound. It doesn't spread through coughs or sneezes, but through despair and loneliness. It comes from social media, from academic pressure, from financial stress, from depression, loss, and all the things no one teaches us how to face. It is in those weakest moments, when all you need is something to soothe your sadness, that death lurks closest. Funeral homes in the US now often handle bodies of teenagers as young as 15 or 16. They have no tattoos, no criminal records. They are model students. And now, they are victims. Schools where students have died of fentanyl often hold memorials, hanging photos, lighting candles, engraving names on stones. But what happens next? More children die in the same way, just weeks later. Because this epidemic does not stop at emotions. It depends on a system. Websites selling counterfeit pills, trafficking routes from China to Mexico to the US, social media platforms failing to control content, lack of psychological support for youth, and the silence of the community itself. People are ashamed to say their child died from drugs. The living suffer quietly, while the dead are forgotten. My son was not addicted. He just wanted to sleep deeply. But just one pill, and now I have no son. A father in Texas. When you hear about fentanyl, you won't see gruesome close-up photos, bloody scenes, or horrifying corpses. What you see are empty beds, empty chairs, unsent letters, unfulfilled dreams. These are lost souls, but their stories should not be buried. They are not just statistics. They are a wake-up call, a reminder that if we don't act now, many more names will disappear from this world without anyone having the chance to say goodbye. Studio Microphone Chapter 4: The Criminal Cycle, From Laboratories to the Streets. We often imagine drugs being smuggled in suitcases, secretly crossing borders, hidden inside trucks or luggage. But with fentanyl, the story is more complex, and much colder. Fentanyl is not a plant. No farming, no farmers, no climate needed. Fentanyl is synthesized in laboratories, with a few cheap chemicals, some simple equipment, and a recipe available online. You can create a drug hundreds of times stronger than heroin. But these laboratories are not in research institutes. They are deep in the jungles of Mexico, inside abandoned houses, or even basements in Los Angeles suburbs. They are the territory of the drug cartels. For a long time, cartels like Sinaloa and CJNG have controlled drug routes into the US. First cocaine, then heroin, then meth. But now, fentanyl brings higher profits and lower risks. Why? Because with heroin, you need to grow poppies. Takes months. With cocaine, you need forest land. Costly. But fentanyl, you just need a few chemical bottles, imported from China. There are hundreds of front chemical companies in China, registered as pharmaceutical or laboratory supply companies. They openly sell precursors like NPP, 4A-NPP, and many others, on the internet. And although Chinese authorities pledged to tighten control, these companies survive by renaming products or using secret codes for transactions. The materials are shipped by container, by sea, air, or even international mail. Once in Mexico, they are processed into fentanyl in superlabs, large-scale laboratories. It only takes a few hours to produce millions of fentanyl doses. Cartels package them into pills, resembling oxycodone, Xanax, or Adderall. These pills are then smuggled into the US through the southern border. Sometimes hidden inside goods, sometimes carried by couriers, and most terrifyingly, sometimes by teenagers lured into trafficking. Once inside the US, The drugs are broken down into smaller batches and spread through social media platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, Telegram. The dealers are no longer leather-jacketed street dealers. They are hidden accounts, just a few messages away. Green pills, cheap, safe, DM now. No one checks. No one guarantees safety. No one knows that just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can kill you. Some counterfeit pills contain fentanyl doses 50 times lethal levels. And users have no idea. No smell, no taste, no sign. Just one mistake. US law enforcement has seized tons of fentanyl in recent months. Some seizures enough to kill the entire population of America. So why does it keep coming? Because fentanyl is too easy to transport. Just a tiny bag the size of a fingernail can kill thousands. And criminals know this. They don't need to transport tons of drugs anymore. Just a few grams of pure powder, and the whole world can fall apart. What about users? They think they're in control. They trust familiar sellers. They say, I just want a good night's sleep. And then, they die without knowing why. Fentanyl isn't an ordinary drug. It's a weapon of mass destruction, sold like candy. California Police Chief. The heartbreaking truth. Most users never intended to take fentanyl. They were deceived. They didn't know. And that is the real crime. An invisible crime, spreading through tiny pills, made by people who have never heard the cry of a grieving mother. Studio Microphone Chapter 5. Awakening, the fight against the fentanyl nightmare. Not everyone falls. Not every story ends in death. Amid the darkness, there is still light. Some are lucky enough to be saved by naloxone, Narcan, an antidote that can reverse the effects of fentanyl if administered in time. It's like a switch, pulling someone back from the brink of death within minutes. In many cities across the US, people have started to distribute Narcan to every school, every train station, every gas station. Teachers, bus drivers, police officers, and even students are trained to save lives in an instant. But Narcan is only a temporary rescue. To stop the fentanyl epidemic, much more is needed. Systemic change. Pushpin 1. Early education, truth over fear. Instead of scaring kids with negative images, many schools now educate early about the truth of fentanyl. Talks, real-life videos, and especially stories from survivors, are changing how young people perceive the drug. When students understand that just one fake pill can end a life, they start to say no. Pushpin 2. Communities speak out, breaking the silence. Parents who lost children no longer hide their tears. They form groups, create websites, organize community sharing sessions. They turn their pain into a weapon to stop others from making the same mistakes. Some mothers start campaigns like, "One pill can kill you. Test before you trust." Fentanyl is no joke. Pushpin 3. Technology against technology. If fentanyl spreads through social media, tech developers are fighting back by building tools to detect dangerous chats, drug trafficking keywords, or grooming behavior. Some startups develop at-home drug test kits that help users detect fake fentanyl within seconds. Pushpin 4. Law, strong and compassionate. The US government tightens control on fentanyl precursors, punishes cartels and disguised chemical companies severely. At the same time, states pass laws to expand access to Narcan and promote humane addiction treatment. Because addiction isn't evil, it is the result of despair and lack of help. Pushpin 5. Hope from survivors. Some who hit rock bottom come back. I had clinical death twice because of fentanyl, but now, I am a mother, a recovery counselor, and every day I live to share my story. Sarah, 29, former fentanyl addict. Every survivor is a light. And when thousands of lights shine, darkness has nowhere to hide. Studio Microphone Conclusion. A question for all of us. Fentanyl isn't something that will disappear overnight. It is a consequence of the modern world, where people are lonely in the crowd, under heavier pressure than ever, and where death can come from a tiny pill. But if we understand it, talk about it, and face it, we can turn fear into action, turn loss into hope, and turn the next generation into a generation no longer deceived by death disguised as salvation. You can be the change. Share the story, listen, act. Because in this fight, every life saved is a victory.